And today we kick it off with Stefan Lingler from Shpock. So Stefan is CTO at Shpock. Shpock is a second-hand marketplace app where you can sell stuff. And yeah, let's jump right in. So Stefan, tell us a little bit like how it started. When did you start to work at Shpock, and what was your first role there?
Right, so I actually did not start at Shpock. I started at the Finally company, which just launched Shpock in 2012. And I started right 3 months before we launched that. And I was hired as a web developer. My contract still reads web developer. But of course, you can imagine in the meantime, my role has been redefined a couple of times. Yeah, so I was there from the beginning.
There from the beginning. And then you were focusing on the backend side of things. Why backend?
So we have been 2 developers, Nem and I. And the question was, we have to do a mobile app. So somebody has to take the role of doing the mobile developing. And we didn't throw a coin or so, but it was basically like we all could do it. So who is going to take that part? And then decided for mobile, and I was fine with backend since this was my experience, my knowledge anyway from before already.
And today, how many people do you have in your backend team? How is it structured?
Yeah, so we have 11 people in my team, including me. I always want to be part of that. Okay. And beginning of this year, we split into 2 divisions. So there's now 2 team leads who grow into that position. So we did not just hire team leads, we sourced from the team. And those teams are now having clear responsibilities, what to do and on which projects to work. This was important to also be able to scale the team and deliver in the same quality as before in a smaller team. And
the team splits, can you explain it a little bit? Did you split teams because I think you have a backend and you communicate with the API, with other services and so on and so forth, but you probably also have like internal APIs, maybe for IT operations whatsoever. So is it like this kind of split or is it different?
So we never want to disconnect any developer from our main product. So this is one challenge or one criteria. But as you said, we have the marketing team, we have the support team, we have revenue team, we have the product team, which has alone 2 dependencies on the backend team. So there's it's quite easy to distribute the load and accountabilities across those 2 teams, so that they're not disconnected from the product. And there's one part that is shared by the whole team, which is taking care of our API, of our code base. This is not something one team does. It's something that falls into the responsibility of the whole team.
Okay. So are there also then some cross-team meetings, or how do you organize yourself?
It's funny that you use that term because we thought we invented that.
Okay.
It's the CTMs that we do whenever somebody has a feeling of okay, it's not clear now what we should do. The briefing is maybe incorrect, or some estimation from a developer is missing. Then we literally ask people from different teams. So, for example, somebody from product, somebody from BI, somebody from the backend, or somebody from the app teams to get together in a room and have a 5 to 10 minutes cross-team meeting to align on that question. Because otherwise, you end up in a misalignment that is clarified maybe a week later, and we definitely want to avoid that.
Okay.
And the distance between the developer team and product team is 15 to 17 meters. So we learned from the beginning that it's super important to have a clear and easygoing communication, and this is what supports that.
Cool. So from the theory, like you have teams, you have processes, you have your tools outlined. Let's go into the day-to-day business, because sometimes in the day-to-day business it's different. In the day-to-day business is like we need this now. Yeah. So how is the process? How do you deal with that? How do you prioritize? How does it work?
Okay. So each team has their own show fix meetings, which happen with our management. And as soon as things are getting more concrete, they are shared with depending teams. So in overall, we have an OKR process, so objectives and key results. We took this from Google. So to make the process and the roadmap transparent to all team members. So this already gives a slight idea about what is the direction where we are going. And then when things get concrete, we get together the teams in kickoff meetings. Already before that, we shared feature definitions. So the people start to identify with the next roadmap steps pretty early. And we don't have too many discussions on things that we discussed already. And when things change, so when priorities are changed, then this is also easier if people already knew what was the roadmap, what was the priority, and why things have changed. So without a reasoning, there shouldn't be any priority change, and everybody should be able to understand the reasoning.
And in reality, is it that way, or is there sometimes? I mean, of course, you have to be agile because you have sometimes there is something where you have to act immediately. But
so of course it's hard. So especially on things that you don't change in your planning, but that just happen on the market. Or if some users behave not that nicely and destroy the experience for good users, this is always hard. But I personally ask myself deep in my heart, what would be the right thing to do for the user, and then usually the answer is pretty clear.
Okay. So basically, a user-centered approach, and with the OKRs, you also establish some kind of like ownership, not just assigning tasks, but really everybody's on board with the goals and is aligned towards the goals.
Exactly.
So another question in backend engineering is, I think you, of course, always want to build it perfect. You want to have it clean, test-driven development maybe, or how do you keep balance between, let's say, code poetry and technical depth, like doing it perfect and
So of course we are focused on growth. Still, since the beginning, this was always growth. This means you don't care that much about code quality or reusability of code, but as soon as a team grows, you need to do this. You need to introduce that to your process. And an example for this is the 10-day release cycle for our app. Includes 1.5 days, which can be dedicated to cleanup. Of course, in 1.5 days, you cannot refactor an old class. This does not work. But you can at least prevent that you build up a legacy or dependency on such old code. And usually, talking about bigger refactorings, they happen then maybe in one. So we dedicate one release cycle for that. And on the go. So during the day or during the weeks, we try to do those. Or we're doing this bi-weekly tech talks internally, where senior people, but also people who just got exposed to a new topic, present how they did it. So that every developer is able to apply that strategy in his next feature. So that
that's good. That's good. So you already touched a little bit the topic scalability. I think Shpock has now 10 million active users a month, if I'm correct. So what's your take on scaling? Like if people are building apps and they prepare for growth, when is it the time to think about scaling from your opinion and from your learnings? When would you suggest to start thinking about that?
So since we started with small infrastructure that we took over from the previous project that we then terminated, we had already some kind of base, but this was not like very structured or well defined for the needs. What we've learned from the previous project, it doesn't make sense to create a concept that will save you in 2 years, because in 2 years maybe the requirement will be completely different. So it's better to stay open for adjustments and adjust for the need that you have now or maybe in the next months.
Okay.
So we always scaled for peak. So we knew we were going to have TV commercials, and we assumed this will bring in this and that traffic to our service. And then we prepared with benchmarks and confirmed with benchmarks whether we could take that. And then we had a TV commercial, and then we saw it worked or it did not work and adjusted. So it's a bit of aligning, adjusting on the go. And on bigger questions like what database to use for a specific feature or so, we take everybody into the discussion. So now that could be that the 10, 15 people discussing on the topic to not have a biased decision in the end on one technology. MySQL was one thing like that. We thought that's great because it's structured and it's not like MongoDB. We should take that for all the structured data. And we had a party when we got rid of it because it was very unstable and not for our purposes.
Okay, cool. Talking about growth, also from another standpoint, you started in Austria and then you rolled out in different countries. But also the company grew, and I think in 2015 a majority of the company was acquired by a media company called Schibsted. I would be interested in what did change in the company and what did change for your role when this happened? How was this?
So there are two sides to this. First, we knew that we needed support, basically financial support. So we were looking for VCs, but then we also noticed it's not only money that we need. We also need competence. And Schibsted is a huge and established media house with lots of different platforms. And we also saw that we could be a perfect addition into their portfolio. And we did not worry that much about what it would change for the team, because back then the team was still, I would say, what was it, 50 to 60 people? I can't remember that good anymore. But it was, so we had a big identification with the product and the team, which could not have been unbalanced or so by any acquisition. What was clear to us, we wanted to always keep control over our product. So it would not have worked if, for example, product or the roadmap would have been taken by somebody else.
Cool. And what are the next steps for Shpock? So what's in the pipeline? Any exciting stuff you can share? Or
since we are in full growth phase, it's a bit difficult to be very open on that. I think also it would take quite some surprise and excitement for the user if they would already know what we're going to release in a couple of months. But
there is something in the pipeline.
Of course, of course. So we always had in the beginning a very strong focus on the user and on their needs, and this will continue, and we will strengthen that again, so that we fulfill their request for innovation and for freshness. So, and whatever exactly this will be, this will people will read in release notes and in all the press announcements.
Perfect. So. Another thing is maintenance. Like, what are the key principles that you apply or that you have learned to mitigate downtime? So to really have no downtime, because I think this is the worst case scenario if you have to update something and you have to make the app unavailable. Yes. So can you elaborate a little bit about that? So
there was a particular case where we had to actively take down our service. That didn't feel good at all. And this was because of a MongoDB upgrade that we had to do. And the nature of that upgrade required that. And it was a fun team event because we met in the office at 3:45 in the morning. We had a clear structure on how to do this. I think I was the moderator, so I took care that communication worked well, and we were running through that. But in fact, our aim is to avoid that completely. So if we need to migrate data or services or whatever into something new, we always strive for no downtime migration, and that works. So you can have shadow deployments in the background. You can deploy code that is already preparing stuff and slowly migrating, and then you can kick off a migration process that makes sure everything is all actually migrated, and then it's more or less a matter of a switch. And this takes some effort that we have to take, but no user would say, great, they're doing maintenance for us. They're not interested in such things, and that's actually fine. I'm also a user, and I would like to see the service up and running every time.
What's the hiring process at Shpock? What are you looking for when you look for a backend engineer? What qualities are you looking for?
So one big thing that has to work out is the cultural fit. I think this we can hear all over the place, but this is really important for us. Because we have to work together then on a daily basis, and if we have to align every day, every week on certain things, it doesn't work. Second, expectations. It's not only company expectations, but also the expectations of an applicant. We feel the responsibility to fulfill those expectations. Like, I would like to develop my skills, I would like to grow, I would like to get a team lead. And the earlier we exchange on this, the better it will work out. So this is one part. The other part is, of course, the skill set. I think the most important criteria is that people are eager to learn. I remember that phrase from my own application at the company. Kati Klausberger, the co-founder, used exactly that words. And I think this is the most important. If you're a developer and you are a developer in your heart, you can grow into every position. Now, of course, there are some hard skills that you would have to have. There should be some experience with API development, a clear understanding of how to split responsibilities in domains, and also the wish to have fun at work, because fun is what actually is compensating all the pain times.
Interesting. So one last question is about diversity. Because diversity right now, it's a big topic in the tech industry. We hear a lot about it. And I remember, that Shpock was one of the companies I think you hired from the refugees.
Yes.
Code, somebody who went through the program, and I think he got actually a job at Shpock.
Exactly, that's true.
How was it? And
So Stefan Steinberger from Refugees Code got to know us at some conference. He saw, I think, also Kati Klausberger talking, or maybe Armin talking, and he thought he must somehow connect with us. And the whole program on their side was in a development stage back then, but we committed to do something together. And the first thing we did was like a coding workshop. We had people from their course, attendees of their course and their program in our office on a Saturday afternoon or so. And we did basic programming, an Android application. It was called Color Fun, and it was more than just Color Fun. And we also were able then to hire somebody, and this was very important, of course, also for their program. Yeah. And diversity in general is something that also happened already before that. So we have like 30 different nationalities in the company. It's a super big effort to get people a work permit in Austria. Unfortunately, at the moment, this is not getting better. Yeah. So we knew it was like 1.5 months. Now it's getting into 4 months. So it would be great to see some movement here.
Definitely.
And for us, it's always a benefit. It takes a bit more effort to align on different methodologies, but diversity for me is always key. So it wins definitely always over structure.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. So, any questions from the audience? Yeah.
Tabs or spaces?
Tabs or spaces? That's an interesting question. As I just talked about diversity, I don't care.
It's a good one. Any other questions? Yeah, over there.
Any developments in payment from Shpock?
Yeah. So apart from the App Store and the in-app purchase payments, because I think this is easy to do, we actually do payment. We allow payment through PayPal. Currently, you can do this in Austria, in the UK, and in Germany. And we are about to roll this out also to other countries. And as a seller, it's very easy to onboard. And as a buyer, we noticed that buyers have big interest in doing PayPal payments.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is we were allowed to participate, or we were selected to participate in a PayPal beta program where they established their own marketplace product. And we developed this together with them.
Great. Thanks.
Welcome. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, it's so weird to listen myself. So the question is, what is working hour in your company? Like, do you have flexible? I mean, for developers, are they coming at 9 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m. or they are working from home, or you know?
So I was in the office today at 7:15. That was a bit of an exception. Usually I'm there at 10 or 9:55 or 9:45. I saw some developers already there, some join later at 10. So this is basically quite flexible. We try, especially for those developers who also attend meetings, to find a time during the day where those meetings can happen. Working from home is not explicitly something that we would force or empower, because we noticed that speed actually is affected by that. But on the other side, so all those appointments that you have to attend at, I don't know, doing some bank contact or bank appointment or so, those things don't work out in the evening. So we are very flexible. It's more like a giving and taking approach in this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
My last one.
Hi.
Hello. I have a question jumping back to the diversity. How open are you on the gender diversity? I mean, there are not so many women in...
Please apply.
Yeah. I already have a job as a developer, but I heard that some companies are not so open to hire women. I don't know why, but how open are you?
Yeah, so we have not too many women in our development team, which I think is a pity, and I don't see a reason for that. Why we should not allow this? We have one iOS developer. We have in the QA team. We have also people. I would consider them also as developers, and I would love to see somebody in the backend team enriching our decision making and development process.
Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us here. Thanks, everyone. Big round of applause for Stefan.